Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive.
Hmm.
Today we're tackling something I think a lot of us are interested in: spiritual energy. It's
Yeah,
one of those things that can feel kind of hard to grasp.
absolutely.
You gave me these excerpts from a book called Tapping into Spiritual Energy, A Guide to Personal Growth.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really cool about this book was that it seemed to be like a really good blend of personal experience and also practical advice.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the most intriguing things about it. It doesn't shy away from the author's own struggles,
Yeah,
which, I think can make these concepts a little bit more relatable.
yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Um, so the author starts off by kind of describing this feeling that I think a lot of people have,
Yeah.
like this sort of searching.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is, this person was raised Catholic. They explored other religions,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, Buddhism, all sorts of things.
Right.
But they still felt like something was missing.
Yeah, it's almost like wherever you go, there you are. Sometimes it's not so much about the external practices, but really it's about an internal shift.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the author really kind of digs into that internal struggle,
Yeah.
like, are they overthinking things?
Mm-hmm.
Is organized religion just not really for them?
Right.
Or is it just that, modern life is so distracting that it's hard to connect with that deeper part of yourself?
Yeah, and I think that's a question a lot of people who are on a spiritual path kind of wrestle with, right?
Hmm.
Is it discomfort that you kind of push through, or are you really looking for a path that truly resonates?
Yeah, it's like, which one is it, right?
And I think this book kind of tries to offer guidance on both of those fronts.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's get into some of the practical stuff here. The author outlines 8 tips for tapping into spiritual energy, and they're kind of all over the place, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty diverse range.
Yeah, there's meditation,
Mhm.
connecting with nature,
Mhm.
even like doing good deeds in your community, all
Mhm.
sorts of things.
Right. And I think what's interesting is that so many of them emphasize both the internal and the external.
Yeah?
It's not just about like quieting the mind, but also about how we engage with the world around us.
Totally. Okay, so the first tip is daily morning meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And the author talks about how, like, quieting those mental monkeys over time allows your intuition to kind of bubble up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes more clear.
Yeah, I think, often meditation is kind of presented as this path to stillness and bliss.
Right.
But I think the real value of it might be in developing a deeper awareness of our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and how they're actually influencing our actions.
Wow, that's a really good way to put it, actually. It's not about escaping the thoughts, but it's more about understanding them.
Exactly.
Okay, tip number 2, altruistic action.
Yes,
Doing good deeds, being a part of something bigger than yourself.
I love that one. I think that speaks to the interconnectedness of our well-being.
Yeah,
When we contribute to our community, we often feel a sense of purpose and belonging that can be really nourishing.
yeah, it's like that feeling you get when you, like, volunteer or help a neighbor or something.
Exactly.
There's a certain energy that comes from that. Yeah. Okay, so this next one, I think a lot of us can relate to. Get a daily dose of nature.
Yeah.
The author talks about nature reducing stress, boosting energy, and even making us feel more connected to something larger than ourselves.
There's a reason why so many spiritual traditions really emphasize that connection to nature, right? It's almost like when we're surrounded by natural beauty, our nervous systems reset.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Especially like after a walk in the woods or something.
Yeah.
It's like I just feel so much more grounded and present.
Right.
Nature has this calming, almost meditative quality to it. Okay, and the book's 4th tip is, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, surround yourself with music.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
The author suggests that music affects not just our emotions, but our thoughts, our subconscious, even our physical well-being.
I think if you think about it, music is vibration, right? And we are, at our core, vibrating beings.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that different frequencies, different rhythms would have profound impact on us.
That's true, yeah. Certain songs can totally, like, shift my mood or bring back a memory or something.
Exactly.
Tip number 5 is one that really stood out to me. Listen to your gut.
Yes.
The author says, and I quote, "What really aligns with you may go against your rules of spirituality."
Mm-hmm. That's such a powerful statement.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like it challenges us to examine whether our spiritual practices are truly authentic or if we're just following dogma.
Right. Are you just doing what you're told?
Mm.
Or are you actually, like, listening to that inner voice?
Exactly.
And that can be kind of scary, though, right?
It can be.
To question everything you've always
Yeah,
believed.
it takes courage.
Yeah.
But I think that internal dissonance, that questioning, can be a really powerful catalyst for growth.
Yeah.
It might be unsettling at first, but it could lead you to a deeper and more personalized understanding of your own spirituality.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's like you have to kind of break down those old belief systems in order to, like, make space for something new.
Right.
Which brings us to the author's next tip: supporting both your mind and body.
Oh, yeah.
So they suggest things like dancing, sports, reading, even writing, just anything that kind of nourishes those different aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think this is a good reminder that we're not just spiritual beings floating in the void, right?
Right.
We're embodied, and that embodiment actually plays a vital role in our well-being, in our spiritual exploration.
Yeah.
Our physical and mental health can either support or hinder that exploration.
But the whole healthy body, healthy mind thing,
Yeah,
but with like a spiritual layer added in.
exactly.
Okay, tip number 7 is one we hear a lot, but it's always worth repeating. Appreciate what you have.
Yeah, cultivating gratitude is such a powerful practice.
Right.
It's about shifting our attention from what's missing
Mhm.
to the abundance that's already present in our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the author talks about being grateful, not just for like material possessions, but also the people in your life, your accomplishments, even just like a smile from a stranger.
Right,
It's
right.
about those little moments of connection.
Those small acts of kindness that can really ripple outwards and create a more positive and compassionate atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hmm.
Okay, and finally, tip number 8: accept others.
Mm-hmm.
The author really emphasizes the importance of recognizing that everyone is on their own unique journey and that we don't have to agree with everyone's choices to respect their right to make them.
That's huge. And I think that's where compassion and empathy really come into play, right?
Right.
It's about letting go of judgment
Yeah.
and allowing people the space to be themselves, even if their beliefs or actions are different from our own.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all connected, even in our differences. So we've covered these 8 tips, which I think all kind of point towards creating a more positive, expansive life experience.
Hmm.
But the book also touches on something that can feel a bit intimidating: the idea that spiritual awakening can sometimes be painful.
Right, right. And I think it's important to acknowledge that spiritual growth isn't always about rainbows and butterflies.
Right.
It can involve confronting some uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us.
Yeah.
And those moments of disillusionment or even despair can actually be really crucial parts of the process.
The author describes it as shedding layers of mental constructs, patterns, and beliefs, which honestly sounds kind of terrifying.
It does.
It's like, who am I without all those things that I've always defined myself by?
Yeah, it's almost like an identity crisis, isn't it?
It is.
Where we become so attached to our beliefs and our stories about ourselves that when those are challenged, it can feel like our whole world is falling apart.
Exactly. So how do we navigate that?
Yeah.
How do we know if we're truly on the path of spiritual awakening or just, having a bad week?
That's a great question, and I don't know if there's an easy answer. But maybe it's less about labeling the experience and more about just paying attention to the shifts that are happening within us.
Okay.
Are we questioning long-held beliefs?
Yeah.
Are we feeling a deeper connection to something larger than ourselves?
Mhm.
Are we more aware of our thoughts and emotions?
Yeah.
These subtle changes could be signs of a spiritual awakening unfolding.
So it's less about like those big aha
Yeah,
moments
right.
and more about these subtle shifts in like awareness and perception.
Exact.
And it's like those 8 tips we discussed, they're not just isolated practices.
Right.
They're tools to help us navigate these periods of growth and transformation.
Absolutely. Each tip in its own way encourages us to cultivate a deeper connection to ourselves and to the world around us.
Mhm.
And whether it's through meditation or spending time in nature or expressing gratitude, these practices can help us create a more, spacious and resilient inner landscape,
Right.
which is essential when we're facing those challenging transitions.
Yeah, that's a good point. The author also emphasizes that true spirituality isn't about how often you go to church or how many spiritual books you read.
Right.
It's about aligning your actions with your authentic essence.
Yeah, it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk,
Exactly.
and embodying our values in our daily lives.
Mhm.
It's about recognizing that true spirituality is a lived experience.
Yeah.
It's not just a theoretical concept.
Right. So we've explored the author's personal struggles, their 8 tips for tapping into spiritual energy, and even the potential for pain during spiritual growth.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey through this landscape of the human spirit.
It really has. What stands out to you from our exploration so far?
That's a good question. What resonates most deeply with you?
What keeps coming back to me is this idea that spirituality is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, I love that.
It's about continually growing, evolving, becoming more aligned with our truest selves.
Right.
And that can take a lifetime or, multiple lifetimes even, who knows?
I love that perspective. It takes the pressure off needing to arrive somewhere.
It does.
It allows us to embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of the journey itself.
Yeah,
There's a sense of freedom in that, wouldn't you say?
absolutely. It's like we're all just works in progress,
Right.
constantly learning, stumbling, getting back up again.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the point,
Yeah.
to embrace the journey with all its twists and turns,
Mm.
knowing that there's no finish line,
Right.
only an ever unfolding path
Beautiful.
leading us towards greater awareness and connection.
It's about finding joy and meaning in the present moment while also holding space for the mystery and potential of what lies ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps that's the ultimate invitation of this deep dive, right?
Yeah.
To explore our own unique paths
Yeah.
with curiosity, courage, and a sense of wonder.
I feel like the more we learn about this, the more questions come up.
Yeah.
Like, if spiritual growth is this ongoing process,
Mm.
how do we even measure progress? Without getting caught up in thinking we have to achieve some ultimate state of enlightenment.
Yeah, that's a question that's puzzled philosophers and spiritual seekers for centuries.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there is like one right answer, but
Yeah.
maybe those traditional markers of progress, like reaching a certain level of, meditative skill or having mystical experiences,
Yeah.
maybe those aren't the whole story.
Right. Right. Maybe it's more about how we integrate those experiences into our daily lives.
Yeah.
Are we becoming more compassionate? Are we more forgiving? Are we more present?
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
It's about those subtle shifts in how we're actually being in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like how we respond to challenges, how we treat ourselves and others, how
Right.
we show up in our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like spirituality becomes less about seeking something out there
Mm-hmm.
and more about cultivating a certain quality of presence and awareness in here.
Exactly. And that inner transformation can ripple outwards, influencing not just our personal lives, but our communities and the world.
Yeah, the author talks about that too, how spiritual energy isn't just for personal growth, it's also for creating positive change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they make this interesting point that even if we don't feel like we've, achieved some high level of enlightenment,
Right.
we can still make a difference through small acts of kindness, compassion, and service.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that each of us has a unique role to play
Mm-hmm.
in this grand tapestry of existence.
Right.
And maybe our individual journeys aren't so much about reaching a specific destination, but about contributing our own unique thread to this ever-evolving fabric of life.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Wow. And it makes me think maybe the most important question isn't how far along am I on my spiritual journey,
Right.
but rather how am I using my spiritual energy to make a positive impact on the world?
Yeah, that's a question worth pondering.
It is.
It invites us to shift our focus from individual achievement
Yeah.
to collective well-being,
Right.
recognizing that our actions, no matter how small, can have this ripple effect.
It's like we're all interconnected
Mm.
and our own spiritual growth is tied to the well-being of everyone else in a way.
Exactly. And maybe that's the most profound lesson we can take away from this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
True spiritual energy is not just about personal enlightenment.
Right.
It's about contributing to the collective awakening of humanity.
Wow. It's been an incredible exploration.
It has.
We've covered so much from the author's personal story to practical tips and even the potential for both, joy and pain along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a privilege to delve into this topic with you. What's resonating most with you as we kind of wrap up?
I think what I find most inspiring is this sense that spiritual growth isn't about striving for some distant goal.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the present moment and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, It's about finding that spark of the divine within ourselves
Yeah.
and letting it shine outwards, illuminating the world with compassion and kindness and reverence for life.
Beautifully said. And as we continue on our own individual journeys, let's remember that those most profound transformations often happen in the quiet moments, in the small acts of kindness, in the unwavering commitment to a life aligned with our values.
So true. So we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, keep asking questions, and keep nurturing that spark within.
Yeah.
We hope this deep dive has been helpful for your own spiritual journey.
And remember, you're not alone on this path. We're all connected, walking each other home.
That's beautiful. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into spiritual energy. Until next time, may your journey be filled with purpose, meaning, and an abundance of love and light.